Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be in front of you. So thank you, Jose Luis, and thank you, Jose Carlos, for this opportunity. I can present the highlights from Romania's wildlife and some inside aspects of my daily job. As you know, I'm a researcher. And in my free time, I also doing a guiding job for a person which are willing to see Romania's wildlife. I have to admit it was a little bit, I'm really bit nervous to be in front of you. And I have to admit that it was kind of struggling to prepare this presentation due to the high volume of information I want to transmit you. I've tried to make it the presentation quite short, so we can have maybe more time after for discussions, because I'm pretty sure you know the situation of the large carnivores in Romania, and I'm pretty sure you have questions about that. Unfortunately, due to this pandemic situation, we have to be online instead to be in a nice place where we can interact with each other. It would be very, very nice, but unfortunately not possible now. But I'm quite confident and hopeful, more hopeful than confident, that we can meet this year in our beautiful country to see the large carnivores and to see the beautiful landscapes of Romania. I would like to start with my presentation with some information about myself. I'm Alex Gridan, researcher at the National Forestry Research Institute at the Wildlife Department of Brașov. Our main activity doing my daily job is one project very important is to reporting under Article 17 of Habitat Directive. So every 6 years we are reporting the conservation status of species and habitats in Romania. Very interesting but kind of difficult job to do due to the big area of Romania. We have to do monitoring of 10% of the surface in every biogeographical regions. It's a lot of work and a lot of driving and around and walking around, but it's beautiful for sure. At our institute, we have a genetic lab, a very, very performant genetic lab, very high tech. We are doing genetic studies, especially on large carnivores. Due to the high density of carnivores, especially bears, actually we have the highest density of bears all over the world, reporting to the size of the country. We also have a lot of human-wildlife conflict, human-bear conflict, and we have let's say a team, intervention team, which we use to rescue bears or relocate bears. Another very beautiful part of my job is species reintroduction. So we are trying to reintroduce species which disappear from the local fauna. We have a lots of protected areas and national parks in Romania, and one other part of my job is developing management plans for these protected areas. And of course, like you can see in the picture below on the left, we are doing wildlife behavior research. That means a lot of tagging, coloring wildlife like bears, wolves, and lynx. And in my free time, which is not a lot due to my job, I also used to make wildlife guiding for people which are willing to see our wildlife. I do this for over 10 years. Actually, Jose Luis and Jose Carlos, I just realized that we know each other for 10 years. So we're getting older, unfortunately. I would like to share some information about Romania and about our nature. So Romania is one of the countries with the highest biodiversity in Europe. It owns a third of the Danube Delta, of the total length of the Danube River, and half of the Carpathian mountain chain. There are 11 biogeographical regions in Europe, and there are 5 on the surface of Romania. So Romania is one of the countries with the most different biogeographical region in Europe. We also often hear that we have a beautiful country, but do we really realize the importance of our country in Europe, and on which level we are due to biodiversity? Do we really realize how important and unique nature is to us? So I would like to share some highlights and some interesting things about Romania, which I don't think you know, but I want to really tell you about that. So the diversity of our country is given by the confluence between the Danube, the Carpathians, and the Black Sea. So we have three major landscapes in Romania: the Carpathians, the Danube, and the Black Sea, which is just amazing. So the geographical position makes Romania to have one on its territory, like I told you, 5 biogeographical regions, like the Pontic, the Stepic, the Alpine, the Continental, and the Pannonian region. The Danube is the most important river in the world. Let's say not important, but let's say international river, because it's crossing 10 countries, like Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Serbia, so on, and 4 capital cities like Vienna, Bratislava, Budapest, and Belgrade. It's a very unique it's connecting corridor between these countries, both also naturally and culturally point of view. It's very important. So of the more than 2,800 kilometers of the river, 1/3 it's on the territory of Romania, and is discharging into the Black Sea. So and it's building this, is creating this unique ecosystem, the Danube Delta, which is certainly the most precious natural wealth of our country. The Danube Delta is the largest wetland in Europe, and has one of the largest biodiversity in the world. I mean, over 5,000 species of animals and plants. And also in the Danube Delta, there is the largest compact reed area in the world, and over 300 species of birds, and more than half of the species of birds you can find in the Danube Delta. Like I told you earlier, half of the Carpathian Mountains are found in Romania. The other half is being shared with countries like Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Poland, and Ukraine, of course. The Carpathians stretch for about 1,500 kilometers, and this it's the second longest mountain chain in Europe after the Scandinavian mountains. They have a high variability of ecosystem. The Carpathians are home for over 13,000 species of plants and animals, including the largest population of large carnivores of Europe. And Romania owns almost 65% of the virgin forest of Europe, excepting Russia. And this is a very, very valuable research. It's such a necessary habitat for conservation of species that depend on such a biotope. So it's a very important ecosystem. In the same time, Romania has 13 national parks. All of them are located in the mountain areas. 12 of them are located in the Carpathians. We have only one national park which is not located in the Carpathians. It's located in the Măcin Mountains in southeastern Europe, close to the Danube Delta. The first national park in Romania was established in 1935. It's about the Retezat National Park. In the same time, there are 14 natural parks. You know, there is a difference between natural and national park. It's just about legislation and rules. Of course, the Danube Delta is the only biosphere reserve in Romania that has only the protection status. So it's not a national park, but it's a reservation of biosphere. And of course, we have the Natura 2000 network in Romania. It's emerged to protect the natural heritage of European Union, this whole network. So the basic idea is that biodiversity conservation activities and social cultural development activities must be complementary. So it's not we have to let's say, promote the natural values, not the socio-economic values, but still in the Natura 2000 sites, they are allowed like traditional activities. Currently, the Natura 2000 network covers about 18% of the land area of European Union. Romania being above the average, I mean, Romania has around 23% of the land covered by Natura 2000 network. There are two types of protected areas in the Natura 2000 network. The sites of community importance and the areas for special avifauna protection, for bird protection. There are around 383 sites of community importance and around 148 areas for bird species protections. Like I've told you, the difference between these protected areas are just the rules and what you are allowed to do or what you're not allowed to do. And inside these protected areas, they are so-called core areas where no human activity is allowed. Just to see, I prepared a map with the protected areas in Romania. You can see the Danube Delta Reserve and the national parks and the Natura 2000 network. Just below here, I have a map just to make sure we know where Romania is on the European map. It's a small country. Spain is a 2 times bigger country than Romania. And we have a coverage of 6 million hectares of forest, which most of them are on the Carpathian chain, like you see here. The 6 million hectares of forests consist in conifer forests, around 30–40%, 30% of beech forest, and the rest are oak and other tree species. About the carnivores in Romania, like I told you, we have the highest density and the biggest carnivore population in Romania. The last official report for bear, for example, was in 2016, summing 6,270 individuals. For wolf, 2,855 individuals, lynx 1,470, and wildcat over 11,000 individuals. And like you can see, I prepared in this slide the carrying capacity of our country. For example, for bears, it's around 4,000 individuals, and we have at least 6,270. So this difference between carrying capacity and let's say the number of individuals represent this conservation effort and this conservation challenge we are facing every day, which is not easy to manage. Jose Carlos and Jose Luis were visiting Romania. They know better how difficult it is to live with these predators and how difficult it is to manage this situation given by the high density of large carnivores. For this presentation, I've decided to present 2 umbrella species, their history and management in Romania. Those 2 species, I have to admit, are 2 of my favorite species and 2 of the success stories in conservation I think in Europe and all over the world, the bear and the beaver. So I call them umbrella species because those are certain species that has been selected for making conservation related decisions. So they are acting like umbrellas. If we are able to protect the habitat in those species, then we are able to protect a lot more species and indirectly. The umbrella species can be used to help to select the location of potential reserves for example, to establish new Natura 2000 sites. And of course, it can help to balance the ecosystem. They also help to determine size, composition, structure, and ecosystems of these conservation areas. So these species are generally need large territories. They need large territories, or they need very specific territories, like the case of the beaver, which needs watersheds, but also he needs the riparian vegetation next to the rivers and to the lakes. So these species generally need very specific conservation measures, and at the same time, in this manner, we are able to protect other species too. The umbrella effect is when a whole ecological community is protected just by giving protection to certain species. The umbrella species, like I told you, are of great importance when deciding to select potential conservation areas, such as the creation of national park reserves or other protected wildlife areas. Due to the rapid, let's say, transmission of our ecosystem, transformation of our ecosystem, the use of umbrella species serve as a natural tool to assess the health status of an ecosystem. So that means if we are able to manage ecosystems in a manner to maintain those, for example, those two species, then we are doing it right. So it's a very good indicator of healthy ecosystems. Regarding the history of bear in Romania, it's a very interesting and very controversial history of the bear, because at the end of the Second World War, the bear population in Romania was very low, due to all the let's say the mistakes we were doing after a World War, the difficult life. People were consuming a lot of resources. We had to pay like compensation, war compensation to the Soviet Union. That means so for example, in the 1960s, over 800,000 hectares of forest disappeared from Romania. But so that was the lowest point of the population. It was on about 800 individuals in Romania. But then after the communists come, we were, let's say lucky that the communist leaders were very interested in this species, because in Western Europe this species was disappeared. We had it in Romania, so they make huge conservation effort to maintain a high population of bears and a healthy population of bears to conserve the dictators for hunting, for example. After the revolution, 1989, we had a huge bear population in Romania. It was the transition time until the year 2000, 2005, 2007, when we joined the European Union. This transition time was, let's say, kind of wild. People were doing whatever they want. People were poor. Corruption was incredibly high level in Romania, and the bear, for example, was considered a pest, because he was doing damage in livestock, he was doing damage in agriculture, and the level of poaching was very, very, very high. So the population size decreased a lot in certain areas in Romania. But then some people realized that this bear population is kind of rare in Europe. I mean, Romania and maybe Sweden has a high population of bears, but the rest of the country very, very low numbers. They realized that it's a good money source for trophy hunting, and they decided to put them again under protection to do more efforts in research. We were doing a lot of research in that years, and of course, some people were owning a lot of money from this trophy hunting, and the bear population starts again to increase. Every year, the bear population was increasing, was protected very well. We were designating new Natura 2000 sites. We had special rules. And until 2016, we had a yearly harvesting quota, which was every year smaller than the natural growth of the population. So we didn't manage to stop the growth of the population. Even we had 1.5 times more bears than the carrying capacity of the habitat in Romania. And 2016, on the pressure of the public, our environment minister decided to ban the culling, the harvesting quota for bears. And I can tell you, after that year, the next year, 2070, 18, 90, was a disaster for the species, and it was a disaster for the how we call it, social tolerance for the species. You know, even we like it or not, the bears, their behavior, they have this behavior like every animal to reproduce every year. I mean, the bears every 2 years, but the populations, it was growing very fast until 2019, when we had the compensation paid for the damages, which was more than 800,000 euros. And 2019 we had 9 people killed by bears and over 50 severely injured. Right now, our environment minister is working again on a harvesting quota to reestablish the balance, because there is so much illegal killing right now, because people in the countryside, they don't understand and the value of the biodiversity value of the bear, because the bear is coming and destroying their gardens. In the past 10 years, I'm working for the institute. We were able to rescue and relocate over 600 bears from illegal traps and bears which are coming in the city, so on. And I really hope that the environment minister will do something, because the population is growing every year, and it's not healthy. Not a big population doesn't mean always a good conservation status, which is the case in Romania. It's the conservation status, and the most important, the social tolerance is in a free fall. It's close to zero. So people don't want to see any more bears. The other species the other umbrella species I want to tell you about is the beaver, the European beaver, which disappeared from the Romanian fauna 200 years ago. It disappears because of overhunting for fur and for the glands. The beaver has the musk glands, it's called musk glands, which are used in the pharmacy and in the perfume industry. And of course, the fur was very valuable, and the meat was very valuable. But in my opinion, the biggest threat to the species was the habitat loss. 100-200 years ago, people were starting to drain the wetlands. They start to do how you call it, the rivers. They were regulated, you know. So for this reason, the species disappeared from the Romanian fauna. Even if it's a very important species called by the scientist the engineer of ecosystems. I know a very good example. I think Jose Carlos knows it very well. The forest close to Brașov, it's called Prejmer Forest, which was drained. It was actually in the past wetland forest with willow and aspen species, and they drained the forest and planted oak forest. And 5 years ago, the beaver returned and modified the ecosystem, bring back the natural forest type. This species, the beaver, is 100% vegetarian animal, and it's a very interesting behavior, the feeding behavior and the construction behavior, because it's feeding on willow, and he has to cut big willows to be able to eat the fresh leaves and the small branches. 1998, the colleagues from my institute, they decided to make the reintroduction of beaver in Romania. We made some agreements with the Environment Ministry of Germany, and we were able to import 198 beavers from Bavaria. And we were able to release them on the 3 main rivers in Romania, 3 biggest rivers in Romania, Olt, Mureș, and Ialomița. And the last report from 2015, if I'm right, from 198 individuals in the year 2000, we managed to raise the population up to 3,000 individuals. So the beaver is very present in Romania, and I'm pretty sure if we have in plan to make another survey, to make another study to see the population size. I'm pretty sure that the population size doubled in the past 5 years. We have reports from beaver sightings in all over Romania, so I'm pretty sure that the population size doubled. And I've told you it's one of the most, let's say, interesting and iconic reintroduction program, and very, very successful. We are very happy with it. At last but not the least, I would like to present you the Danube Delta, the Biosphere Reserve. It is a labyrinth of water and land shared between Romania and Ukraine. It is made up of countless lakes, channels, islands, whatever you can imagine. It's actually the end of a 2,860-kilometer river. So try to imagine how interesting that place can be. I have to admit, I'm living in the mountain part of Romania, in central Romania, in Brașov. But I have to admit, the Danube Delta is one of my favorite place to go to see the wildlife and to enjoy nature. Like I've told you, the Danube Delta is the largest European wetland and reedbed. So it also constitutes Europe's largest water purification system. It works like a purification system. This area is particularly well known for its abundance of bird life. I've told you over 312 important bird species you can find in the Danube Delta. Many of these bird species are using the delta as an important stopover in migration, and also a very, very important breeding area. There are also about 93 species, including the big population of sturgeons. This delta is also one of the largest refuges of European mink. Actually, it's, in my opinion, it's the last refuge for European mink in Romania. We had projects to find other areas in Romania with European mink, but unfortunately we realized that it is the American mink, which is all over Romania, which is a shame, and it's very bad for the biodiversity. It is also a very important refuge for the wildcat and for the otter, and for the globally threatened monk seal. But I think the last report of monk seal in the Danube Delta was, I think, 50 years ago. The Danube Delta is also home for a rich mix of Bulgarian, Lipovan, Moldovan, Russian, Turkish, Ukrainian people. They are scattered around the delta in very small, very beautiful small villages. The main economic activity in the Biosphere Reserve is fishing. Hunting is prohibited right now. Reed harvesting, livestock raising, and subsistence agriculture. So, and also, of course, tourism, which is getting very wild in the past 5 years, let's say. I hope that our government is going to stop and is going to make some new rules for the tourism in the Danube Delta, because I used to go in the Danube Delta for 15 years, every year, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, because I told you it's my favorite place, and I see every year a degradation of nature in the Danube Delta due to high number of tourists. Ecological characteristic, like I told you, the Danube Delta is one of the largest wetland and reedbed in Europe and in the world. It is one of the most important purification system for water in Europe. The delta has wet soils, temporary. There are some areas which are temporarily covered by water. There are plants adapted to this temporary coverage on water. It's adapted to live in very wet conditions. The Danube Delta also includes fixed and mobile sand dunes, so they are big sand dunes traveling due to water level and wind. The freshwater ecosystem gives the reserve a rich biodiversity. Like I told you, 312 species of birds, mammals like otter and mink, and also raccoon dog and muskrat, so on and so on. And there is also a very interesting socio-economic characteristics. The local population, the tradition, and this high number of different how call it nationalities gives the Danube Delta, very special socioeconomic characteristic. Sorry, I forgot to move the slides. So, and at the end, I would like to present my guiding activity. How does a regular wildlife watching day looks like in Romania? So, as you know, the large carnivores especially are very active very early in the morning or very late in the afternoon when the sunset or the sunrise. So like Jose Carlos and Jose Luis knows very well, we need to wake up very early in the morning, be out. We are using also thermal cameras and all the high-tech equipment to manage to see the large carnivores. During our tours, we are also able to see other species, like other mammal species like red deer, roe deer, wild boars, badgers, a lot of bird species. There is a high population of lesser spotted eagle in the area where we are going around. We used to also to visit the forest of Covasna country, which is the harbor of, the highest density of bears in the world. So that's the highlight of our tour, is that we are observing the wildlife moving freely in their natural environment, not fed, not feeding, no artificial feeding. And there is also a very important, I used to say, a golden rule for our trips in Romania: always listen to our guide. Due to the high density of bears, you have to be always very close to me, to be quiet. And these tours are not about hiking a lot. It's very important that the guests and the people we're meeting, they need to be very patient. They need to be able to stay in one place without moving a lot, without making noise, just waiting. And like, for our experience from the past years, it makes sense to do that, because the reward is so valuable. But to see the bears grazing for hours, it's a great gift from nature. I attached to the presentation a few pictures we made in our tours. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm very pleased if you have questions. It's very easy to me, easier and more pleasurable to have a discussion with you. If we can ask me questions, please feel free to do it. Now I'm going to show you the pictures from, these are actually pictures from this year done in the pandemic. Very beautiful pictures done in June, when this beautiful green fresh grass and the bears love to graze. These are pictures from one single day with different bears grazing. You can see also the cubs. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm more than pleased to answer you.
Alex.
Yes.
Alex, please. What is the best season to visit Romania, in your experience, for watching wildlife?
In my opinion, at the beginning of May, we can start the tours, when you see this fresh grass and the bears are eating a lot of grass in springtime. They are doing the winter sleep. They are sleeping in winter, not like in the past, but they are still doing some winter sleep, and they need this fresh grass, the vitamins and all the nutrients they are finding, and they come out. The day is getting longer, the night is getting shorter. Mm-hmm. So they start the activity during daytime. I think I have also a video. No. So I think May, June, July, August, and the beginning of September, because as you remember our last time, at the beginning of September, the sheep are going back from the mountains. There are a lot of small farms, and the bears are there, but they are active later. So I think the spring time until July, August, it's the best time. Look, an example of bear behavior in spring, looking for roots, eating grass, and they are doing that for hours.
Nos pregunta Ángela y ya le contesto yo. El próximo tour que saldrá, como no tenemos claro lo de la primavera, el siguiente tour que está confirmado, si abren pronto saldremos a primeros de mayo, pero si no, el primero confirmado que lo llevarán personalmente José Carlos y Alex será el próximo 24 de junio. Normalmente hacemos una semana, 6-7 días para hacer 4 días de Cárpatos y 2 de Delta, pero a veces alargamos hasta 9 días. Ya están colgados en el calendario de la web si queréis verlos. Alex, tienes 2 preguntas, Alex. The best time to see bears in the Delta?
Sorry?
Hey.
Yes, you have a new question.
Yes, please.
So, which is the best season for watching birds in the Danube Delta? The spring, maybe?
Yes, I would say I would be more than happy to start the tours after the 15th of May. Because in the mountain area, like you know, at the beginning of May, we sometimes have snow. So after the 15th of May, I think is the perfect time. Beginning of June, July and August, and even up to 15th of September, I would say. You know, I don't like to give guarantees, but then it's the best time to come. So, for example, these videos and pictures are made in at the beginning of June, 1st or 2nd of June.
Sí, bueno, pues traduzco un poquito. La mejor época para combinar el delta del Danubio y la observación en los Cárpatos es la alta primavera, desde la alta primavera hasta el 15 de septiembre, porque cuando las noches empiezan a ser ya muy largas, la fauna tiene más actividad por la noche y cuesta más verlos. Entonces, empezar en mayo la temporada y acabar el 15 de septiembre. And they ask at which distance you could see the birds.
Sometimes too close. Yeah, you know, it depends. Those are free-ranging animals. I mean, you know, Jose Carlos, we are not feeding. We are just we know the perfect place to stay, and we have a huge view. We can see from 5 to 20 bears in 3 hours in the afternoon because we know the right places, and they can be very close, up to 20 meters. I will show you a video where the bear was too close. And up to 300, 400, 500, 600 meters, depends a little bit. But you know, you know me for so long time. I don't like to be very close to the animals because I don't want to disturb and I don't want to risk anything. You know, it doesn't make sense to risk anything.
Vega, please.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for this amazing talk. I really enjoy it. Thank you. I was just wondering. So we have all these apex predators.
Yes.
How do you control them? Obviously, without cooling. I suppose the more, I mean, as they hunt, obviously the prey density decrease, and then obviously that will have an impact on them. So therefore, they will.
That is a very, very good question. You see, it's a huge challenge to manage this huge population of apex predators, especially because I try to find the right words. The people in all over Europe, actually, not just in Romania, not just in Western Europe, they're getting very, very sensitive right now. So this is in Romania, the culling is a political decision. Yeah, and no minister wants to assume and to make this decision to start again culling, even if it's becoming a disaster. We have African swine fever in Romania, like all over Europe. The wild pig population is very low, almost disappearing. So the pressure is on the red deer, roe deer, and on the other ungulates. the population is growing every year. The bear, the wolf, the lynx is growing, and the impact is huge on the other species. So the competition and the predation is very, very high. If we are not starting to cool now, the bear population is going to end in a disaster, because cooling is a tool which you can control. Poaching you can never control, and we have it. People in villages around Brașov used to poison bear because the people are already very angry. Bears are coming in the gardens, wolves are coming, killing the sheep and the cows. I've told you that the tolerance for the species is very low, especially in the countryside of Romania, in the rural side, because in the cities everybody loves the large carnivores, but they never interact with large carnivores.